Everyone, my name is Nathan Pay. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. We've got Miles joining us again this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. I
Anytime.
You guys have been crushing it in the research division, just doing a lot of reports, taking a look at a lot of games. So I thought it would be a good idea for us just to chat about everything you've been looking at, some of the reports you've made, because you've even been telling me some pretty interesting things about some of these games. It looks like we're seeing a lot of
Yeah,
innovation right now.
I'm pretty excited about. Well, I'll tell you about the games that I personally have researched, but our team has probably researched 10 or 12 in the time it's taken me to research these four that I've chosen for this meeting. And the first one that I want to talk about is a game called KOKODI or KOKODI. Not exactly
Okay,
sure
yep,
how
I
it's
know that
spelled.
one.
Now, KOKODI is like a battle royale game. It's fantasy sort of flavored battle royale. The idea of the game is that they have an arena mode where you have teams of 2 or 4 users that appear on the map, and basically you have to either defeat the opposing team or capture a necessary zone, or maybe capture and hold 3 zones, and different things like that. They have other games planned. They've got like a raid system that's going to be, I'm assuming, a bunch of people together doing a raid. They have dungeons. They'll have a street ball game, and they will have dragon races, which
Oh,
I thought was kind of cool, but none of those things are really developed just yet. But the most interesting thing about this KOKODI game is the way that it operates tokenomically. It operates on a single token. It's called Candy. And they have a smart contract called the bank. And basically, the bank is a smart contract that's deployed on their layer 2 EVM network. And all of the in-game transactions and everything that happens in the game economically goes through this bank. And the bank will basically
okay.
take all of the economic information that comes in from players buying and selling and from the secondary market. So it actually reads the prices of things at the floor on the secondary market and a bunch of other things like that to give us basically an algorithmic way to make sure that it never runs out of tokens, or that it always has the necessary balance of tokens for the game to operate properly. Now, in the bank, you'll be able to take deposits. You'll be able to take loans from the bank using your NFTs as collateral. The bank will issue licenses for people to become able to trade tokens or able to trade NFTs in their own little shops.
Okay.
And if things go up and down inside of the economy, the bank will have the ability to like increase commissions or increase the costs of premium features or
Okay.
decrease token rewards or loot box chances or things like that in order to maintain and balance the inflow and outflow of the tokens. Now it all happens on its own inside of a smart contract
So
instead of
there's no manual levers being
yeah, so
pulled.
there's no manual, there's no people who are doing this. There's no team that has to manage anything. It all happens on chain inside of a smart contract, which I thought is
Hmm.
extremely clever because no other game is doing it that way, and it's really technically trustless.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like, I don't think they'd want to give away completely. I'm sure they can go in there and make some changes themselves if they need to, but it's like a step towards a decentralized, automated economy balancing AI kind of bank system, however you'd really classify that. But I think that's
Yeah, it
really neat
really is.
too.
And the other thing that I thought was really, really clever is that they have it balanced in a way so that in the game a cryptocurrency. Obviously, it's called Candy, but they also have an
Mhm.
in-game token which is called wrappers, which I'm assuming is the wrappers of the candy. And the important thing is that the smart contract will always regulate the number of tokens in circulation so that buying candy just for wrappers will never be as profitable as buying tokens for fiat. So that means
Ah,
that there will always be an incentive for people to pay fiat instead of just try to game the system to get wrappers. You know what I mean? In
that'll
order
help with
to
liquidity a lot.
so it'll keep its liquidity. Yeah. Now I'm not sure if the bag has like any back end levers or if it's controllable in any way by the company or by the DAO that would be
Mhm.
represented by the token holders. So the last question, the only question would really be exactly how does that work? If something goes wrong with the bank, who can fix it and how does it get fixed? We don't
I
know that
see.
answer. But assuming that the bank is a fully immutable, that is, it's a renounced contract on its own, then it really can't be changed and will be, anybody who plays the game will be at the mercy of the bank. And that actually sounds pretty good to me because that means that the team or any bad actors will not be able to affect the system in a way that would cause it to break.
Yeah, that's really
That was really,
interesting.
really clever.
I think it would
Now,
attract a lot of players kind of knowing that it's this AI renounced, immutable thing where they don't have to worry about all those questions, right? I mean, we know that in play to earn. I mean, it's well known. the developers and the companies will sell their token to on the market to make money, especially when there's like exit taxes pulling things out.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
right. And
quite often.
interestingly enough, this L2
Mhm.
smart contract, when somebody makes a fiat transaction for something, they want to buy something for premium or they want to buy some candy, the USDC that they use to do that, or the money that they use to do that, will get converted into USDC and go into a pool. And then
Okay.
the smart contract will pull from that pool in order to balance everything. So it really does have
Hmm,
access to all of that and then redistributes it into the system in a way to keep balance, which I think is super clever.
that is. I also like the art quite a bit. I thought it was really well done, and like the whole premise of like the mask NFTs, like you need the mask, and it kind of
Yeah,
hints about
yeah, yeah.
how if you don't have the mask, you're gonna like attract danger. I'm not exactly sure what they mean with that. Do you know a little bit
Basically,
more?
what they mean is that if you don't have one of those masks on when you're in one of the modes, such as a raid or a dungeon, you will attract enemies. Those enemies will defeat you. It will be a losing battle. You need to have a mask on in order to
Okay,
avoid a crazy amount of danger in order to be able to win in any game mode. So really, masks are soft required. They're required.
I see. Okay, so yeah,
And
you
and
pretty
I mean,
much
so the
need that.
characters themselves, they have like I guess I would say I would call them tribes. They have four different tribes: the tribe of humans, the night tribe, the alien tribe, and I believe the last one is called the day tribe. Could be wrong
Okay.
about that. And when you get one of the NFT characters, they will be either of the Coco or Die clans. And so if you have a guild, you can have members of both Coco and D inside, but they're against each other. And the way that that
Oh,
works is that each of those like big, I think they're called I think they're called clans. Basically, what happens when you make actions in the game, for example, if you're playing a game and you put graffiti somewhere and nobody takes it down, or if you take down graffiti from the opposing team, or a bunch of other things that will really give you points that get tallied up at the end of the month, and the winning side will get bonuses. And the other bonus that they get, this is kind of interesting. When you die in the game, you drop a bunch of your items, and those items kind of go into this pool. And then at the end of the month, the winning side will get all of the items from the people who died that month in
oh,
distributed to them. So there's a
damn.
lot of incentive for people to go, okay, light side or dark side, which side do I want to be on, and really stick to their side, even as much as it might transcend their loyalties to their guild, because they go, okay, well, I want to be loyal to my guild, but at the same time, I want to make sure, we win at the end of the month.
That's
Now, if
gonna be
you're a
cool.
non-NFT player, you don't have a side, you can be given a side by somebody who is in one of the two sides. They can give you like a red seal or something like that to make your character able to be either one or the other, Coco or D, for a set period of time. And so you can help that side. But apart from that, you're just a sort of a what they call wild. So you're
Okay.
on your own, as far as I know. And I think the earnings
Are
are not active for somebody who's wild, but I'm not 100%
Makes
sure about
sense.
that.
How far along are they in development?
Well, let's find out. As far as I know, they've done, let's see, they did a pre-seed and a seed and a private sale round. They have some gameplay to show, but just a little bit of it. And the
That's what
gameplay
I
is
thought.
some pretty exciting, 4v4 combat that you can do in the arena mode. The arena mode is really the only mode that they developed so far. And I haven't actually had a chance to play the game itself yet, but it looks really,
Okay.
really good. And there is gameplay footage, so it does exist and it does look pretty clean. So with
Nice.
economics like this and a game that actually exists, it sounds like it's a deal to me.
Interesting.
Now I'll
So
just see if I can find where they are along their roadmap. Ah, yes. Okay. Their last roadmap actually only covers up to the end of 2022, and they haven't listed a current roadmap. So if we
that's what I
want to
thought too. I noticed that and I
how
was
far
like,
along they are, we have to follow their development. And that's actually, it's kind of a recurring trend with a lot of these newer games. They're not bothering to post a roadmap, or they'll post a roadmap with no date so that they're not pigeonholing themselves into dates for development.
I think
I
projects
suppose
are
it makes
starting
sense.
to realize that because like every project has an outdated roadmap and it's just
Yeah,
like,
they want to be held accountable, but they don't want to pigeonhole themselves. And I think that's why they're
yeah,
doing.
that makes sense. What about some of the other games you looked at? I know that was one out of the four you said you've recently researched. Any others that caught your
Yeah.
attention?
So the second one that I researched, and actually this came to me originally from somebody who's just a Web 2 gamer, a friend of mine.
Hmm.
And then later on it appeared in one of our lists, and I was like, okay, well, if Web 2 people are talking about this and Web 3 people are talking about this, we have to take a look at this. It's called
Hmm.
Lumiterra. Now, Lumiterra is a game that was developed by Lumi Finance, and Lumi Finance is a DeFi protocol. So
That's
the way that
right.
they describe this is they describe it as having sort of three flywheels. They have their DeFi protocol flywheel, they have gamify users in a flywheel, and then they have strictly players in a flywheel. And what they
Okay.
created is kind of like what I would describe as almost Minecraft meets Terraria meets Ragnarok Online. It's an open world
Hmm.
survival crafting and battle metaverse. So there will be adventures across a giant open world where you have to survive and find things in nature and slay monsters to get materials in order to craft better and better stuff. You can obviously team up, but and that's really important because in this game you have to sort of build your character to either battle or gather or farm. So if you're really,
Okay.
really specialized at farming, you might not be as good at battle or at collecting. So it would make sense for you to go on an adventure with people who have those skills so that you have a balanced party where everybody can get everything
Makes
and
sense.
everything can be processed at the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this game sort of features like I would call them, 2D sprites, but clean 2D sprites in a three-dimensional world, 64-bit. It looks really beautiful, and it's clear that it won't require like a huge tax on your system to run. The farming system is probably more robust than any other game that I've played, including Pixels. Pixels has a pretty robust farming
Okay.
system, but this game seems to have like 100 or 120 different things you can farm and then produce to create a bunch of different things like potions and weapons and equipment, etc. What it functions with tokenomically is the Lua token, and the Lua token. Some people might be familiar with that because it is a DeFi token from the Lumi Financial DeFi system. So interestingly enough, this token is already pretty stable and has a pretty big market cap because it's used for DeFi.
Yeah.
And they're going to incorporate this into the game, which then will be able to be played. And it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's made it onto the Apple Game Store and the Google Game Store. They've gotten approval there. So I know that
Have they?
there's going to be a lot of players who are just interested in playing the game, which looks pretty good on its own, and not sort of super interested in the like Web3 stuff, which they don't have to be. And the other interesting
Okay.
thing is that if you want to gain access to their beta, you have to be part of a Soso tribe. Now, I don't know too much about Soso tribes, but basically, a Soso tribe is something that exists on Telegram, if I'm not mistaken. And the owner of the Soso tribe has to have a staked Genesis box or multiple staked Genesis boxes. And they only have
Okay.
4,000 spots for their open beta too. There's going to be four
Hmm.
open before they have their main game launch. So that suggests that people would have to buy and stake some of these boxes in order to have their Soso tribe, their guild, play the game. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I'll have to do a little bit more research on what exactly a Soso tribe is, apart from a
Yeah,
group.
and I wonder if they're just trying to keep it like a tight knit kind of pod in the beginning, which a lot of games do, right?
Yeah,
Like
and it also seems to me that they do have some sort of a partnership with Soso.
I do like the idea of using the DeFi platform's token instead of making like another token. They're kind of able to
Yeah, it
leverage the value
actually has
of that.
use cases right from the get-go. It's had use cases. It's a proven thing that's been around for a little while, and now they're building on top of it. And I think that's really clever.
Yeah, me too. It kind of reminds me of something. It's a little off topic, but related. Like I think we talked about this during our one of other episodes, like how Honeyland's doing the microtransactions off chain, so people can buy the token through the
Yes.
app now. And Mavia had this figured out a while ago too. Like when they updated their game deck a few months ago, there's actually this slide that talks about buying Mavia in app. So I think we're going to see more games move over into Apple and just be accessible, and people are going to be able. It's like you're not going to know the difference between am I just buying gems in the game or am I buying a token? As a Web 2 player, it's going to be no different. But for a Web 3 player, it's going to make a big difference because you're going to go through the earnings aspect, you're going to go through the extraction. And I just think this is a good way to bridge that. So it's exciting to hear some of these games have had, that
Well, my
box store.
research, my research can confirm that the KOKODI game is available on the App Store. It might even be available on Steam. And again, they're going to be using this sort of smart contract bank in that game in order to manage all of the inflows of tokens and fiat. So I know that they have a system that's not unlike that, except of course the bank is what's running it in the background and not the team. And the Lumiterra is the game is very much the same. It's available on app stores. It's as I remember, it is, let me just take a look here at my report. I think it's cross compatible for different so you can play it on PC and on
Well,
your
so while you do that, something interesting I find is like we don't have a Web3 Steam game yet. So anytime they mention Steam, it's because it's in a beta or there's no
Yes,
on-chain
that's right.
activity. Or like Haunted Space was kind of the first one that was like, we're doing PlayStation, Xbox, PC. And then when you dig into it, it's like, yeah, the crypto Web3 is PC only. Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, different server, different,
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
it's separate from the Web3. There's no interoperability between the two. And I was like, okay, well, at least that's good for awareness, but that's still not the ultimate goal of what we want, which is
True.
like to have
That's
everyone
true.
playing together.
And as I understand it, with this Lumiterra game, they are going to have everybody on the same servers playing together. And that's really,
Okay.
really exciting. And the other thing is that because this game is based on a DeFi token that already has its own system, this game can be built on top of that system, and that's obviously how they're getting the approval on the app stores. It's just a game that then can be used with this token later on.
I
So
see.
that's really exciting. I'm not 100% sure how if there's going to be in-game tokens that convert into the Lua token, or if you'll just be using Lua to play the game. But I
Hmm.
can tell you that the game native token, here we go. The game native token is actually a stable coin that they've just established called Lua USD. So it's a Lumi Finance sort of made USD stable token, which will be part of the ecosystem. So that's how they're going to do it. Really interesting. They
Oh,
managed to pull
okay.
that off. That would make it, I guess, analogous to fiat, and so they could do it that way, if I'm not mistaken,
Nice.
which
I
is
also
really
know,
exciting.
yeah, that I do like that. It seems like a lot of these games are all kind of innovating or trying different things, like KOKODI with the bank and the AI, and then Lumiterra with using a DeFi protocol, and then kind of having this flywheel. I like seeing this. To me, this is the most exciting part about being in this space, is we're getting to see all this innovation. And I feel like with blockchain, we're going to see consistent innovation, which is just you know I don't know what the timeline's going to be. Is it ever going to stabilize? Probably not. It's going to be like technology. It just keeps
Well, the
advancing.
same as it was with the internet. I mean, the internet started off
Right.
using like Web 1 websites that just had HTML in them, and then they went to Web 2 and got things like Flash and other things that were able to make
Hmm.
websites pop off and make like games available just on your web browser and things like that. And then it went further than that. So I think that's going to happen here too.
I think so as well. Have you had a look at Gods Unchained lately and kind of seen what's been going on over
I
there?
have. So Gods Unchained managed to get approval on the Amazon store. So if you go
Okay.
onto your Amazon Prime and you are an Amazon Prime member, you can get, I don't know if it's still active. I think they had a timer on it, but you could get a free pack and get into Gods Unchained via Amazon, which I thought was really clever. Now, Gods Unchained is a free to start game, so you would be free to start just like everybody else and you'd be working your way up, but it is connected to the same service as everybody else. And that
Okay.
game, if you're not trying to put a whole bunch of money in and get a whole bunch of money out right away, it actually earns pretty well for something that you put $0 into. I was able to earn quite a bit of money in my first sort of month grinding the game, and I ended up with a deck that was pretty solid, and I was high up in the ranks, and I was
What
having
would you
tons.
say is quite a bit for free? Like $10,
Oh, just a few
$5?
dollars a day, not more than $2 or $3 a day if you're really, really good.
That's not
And
bad though,
and with
if you're
that
doing it for
logic,
free.
cards like decent cards in the game go from 50 cents to $10. So if you spend a couple weeks playing and get a couple copies of your favorite card that can really pop your deck off, now you can go and be in a higher rank and maybe start competing in sealed tournaments. They did add sealed tournaments to the game. So if
Okay.
you collect 15 of their coins, you can spend those 15 to opt into a sealed tournament and then come back with a prize, which I thought was pretty clever.
Hmm.
And then
I
recently they
like
added
that.
a new set, which really got me thinking. Other
Ah,
games that have their sort of system based on a set amount of NFTs, well, they're not going to be able to add more later, and so they're going to have difficulty adding more sets later. But Gods Unchained is not like that. They can add sets whenever they like and have a limited supply of each set, which
it's
works much the same
interesting.
as a card game would.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. It makes me think about how, you want almost unlimited supply of NFTs because it's going to help with scarcity and value. But there's actually an argument here in trading card games where if you continue to roll out more sets of NFTs, the older sets are still scarce, but now it's able to change the dynamics and the mechanics.
That's
And it's
right.
different from like another game where it's like, oh, we're just going to make a bunch more land. Now it's going to dilute all the land. Well, no, this is like a different mechanic, a different.
Well, it makes me immediately think about Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity just recently rolled out their new system to add some more depth to the game. And what they did is they have their parts of their Axies now upgradable. But
Yep,
that doesn't change the nature of those parts. It doesn't change the nature of
that's
what
right.
those cards do. It just makes them a little bit stronger. So my worry that in the future, Axie Infinity is going to run into the same problem that other games are running into, where there's not enough depth, there's not enough I guess,
Yes.
or complexity, I suppose you could say. There aren't enough cards in the game to make enough metas for people to continue to emerge with new ideas, et cetera, et cetera. Eventually, people will boil it down to those 5 to 10 decks that are the best decks in the game, and then
It's kind of
upgrade.
already like that.
It's kind of already like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I'd say top five. There's about five themed decks, and then you've got like one or two kind of outliers that can occasionally do well, but you probably won't see them in the top 100, but they're still worth looking at because they can
yeah,
be
that's right.
fun.
And actually, it makes me think of Illuvium. Illuvium is one of the most expensive games on the market right now, but it is quite like that. They're running into that very same problem where people are like, okay, there's like 3 builds that are good or 4 builds that are good. And if you're not running those builds, then you're not earning and you're not having fun. And nobody really
Yep.
wants to be in that position. You know what I mean? So I worry about
Mm.
those games because I don't know what they're going to do going forward to solve that problem, they're going to have to mint more NFTs or create more axes or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? And that's kind of lame and kind of scary to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, something to be careful of when you're researching these games or looking into it. I mean, obviously, Axie still got $1 billion market cap right now. It led the bull run for GameFi last time. There's still a lot of opportunity there. They are still building. But that is a good point about the lack of diversity and complexity there. Now, I'm excited to see so many games getting on the Apple App Store. I think this it shouldn't be understated. It's kind of like, oh, cool, but it's like, no, this really is the beginning
It's
because
really a
we're
huge
we're
step.
bridging the divide. What these companies I think are going to have to pivot to is regular traditional marketing for their games. If it's a Web3 game and you get on the Apple App Store, that's great. But if you only targeted degens and did hype marketing on Twitter,
Exactly. I want to be
it's
able to
not going to work the
see
same.
the trailer for this game show up on my Facebook because Facebook knows that I'm interested
That's
in the
right.
game. You know what I mean?
Yes, it needs to start. And that's good for this industry because those models have already been mapped out over the last 20, 30 years. 20 years, I really, you could say maybe a little less than that, on what's the best way for player acquisition, what are the best platforms, how to run
Right.
it. And especially if it's mobile games like we're talking about. I mean, now you can target all the social media platforms, you can retargeting ads. Like that's already figured out. It's not like in Web3 where people are trying different forms of marketing or, they've kind of honed into, okay, influencers and press releases. That seems to be the main thing, and you have this huge hype moment, everything goes up and then the hype dies and you got to kind of spend your marketing in bursts. It's like, no, the Web2 way is like budget, traditional, you kind of push for updates. I just like that now Web3 games are going to be able to leverage the expertise and understanding that's been around in traditional gamings to get the news out or get the information out, and it's not rocket science anymore. It's all been figured out. So
That's
that's
true.
what I actually expect Mavia to really take the reins on here and be one of the pioneers in this space is like seeing the Web2 marketing side of it just at a whole new level. And there's already been at Mavia ads I've ran into,
Yes,
and
they're doing one of the best jobs of actually appealing to the Web2 group that they know they're trying to target. I've been seeing their ads in my Facebook. I've been seeing their ads just absolutely everywhere.
And this is
Because
just like little ones too. Like I've been told,
yeah,
no, this is nothing. Like we're not. These are just kind of like test at phase, like cost per acquisition things, and getting a little bit of the news out there. And it's like so. Okay, that's where I think games need to take this next. Is realize that okay, if you're going to have a free to play aspect, you can't just target in Web3 to raise a bunch of money. You're going to have to target Web2 for player acquisition, and then if people can buy the tokens through microtransactions and that helps feed the token, feed the ecosystem, there is going to be this natural eventual desire from all the free to play players going, wait, these other people in game are talking about making this money, like what am I missing here? And that natural curiosity is what's going to get them to take the step, not because it's being thrown in
that's
their
right.
face,
And
and
then
they're being
with a lot of these
forced to.
projects, those people will find out that actually a wallet was made in their name when they made their account, and actually they're able to mint their characters or their items as NFTs, and then they go, oh, I can already participate in this as long as I just take the step. And
That's
then they
right.
can, once they've made that step, then they can learn about, okay, well, how do I make my own wallet to transfer these things and put them on a marketplace or whatever they want to do? Or if they're really lucky, they'll have a game like War Riders or like Lumiterra that has their own side chain that runs their own marketplace where they can do those activities inside of the game.
Can you explain that about War Riders a little bit?
Yeah, so I've been looking at this game War Riders for almost a year now. We looked at it about a year ago, and they were just in their very, very early phase where you could just sit down in a car. This is a game where you're basically the idea is you're trying to, build cars with guns on them and blow up other cars. You know what I
I like
mean?
just a
Kind
metal.
of kind of like a Twisted Metal type game, yeah. And I've played a couple of games like that. One of the games that I played that was like that in the last 10 years is called Crossout, and it was really a build your own
Yes.
car, get into teams and battle each other type game. And I had so much fun with that game. And that game actually has its own whole Web2 marketplace. And it turns out that that marketplace, even over 5 to 10 years, even with the waning sort of interest in the game, stayed pretty stable. So
Hmm.
that made me think they've got to make a Web3 version of this game sometime soon. And as soon as they do, we're jumping on that because I know it's the perfect formula. It's conducive to Web3 marketplaces. So then in comes this War Riders game about a year ago, and I've just made an update on it recently because it was popping up in my lists again recently. And it's
Hmm.
an MMO, it's like a vehicle brawler, just like that. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
they have like, 8v8 or 5v5, like capture the flag team modes yet, But basically, what they have is an open world where there are different places where you can mine their token benzene. And you would assume that benzene is the fuel that you put inside your car, but it isn't. You take it back to your garage and then you use it to trade for things, items, weapons, skins for your cars, barrels for your guns. And so you can build your garage up and
Ah,
decorate your
benzene. That's
garage.
right. I remember benzene
Yeah,
did really well before.
yeah, the
Actually,
token
that
was
was
doing really, really well, and it's on its way back up, which is why people are talking about this again. Now it's really
okay.
exciting to note that this game does, in fact, have approval on Steam, and I'm to understand that the Steam version of this game will run concurrently with the other versions of the game, which will
Oh, I
run
want to see it,
on
man. I've yet to see
all
the first.
platforms.
I don't know. We need the first Steam crypto game, and it hasn't happened
Yeah,
yet. But I
true.
know
It
they
has
were
to be
putting the
really, really proper.
Steam thing on their website, so it's like, where's the first one that really is integrating wallet or
Now, interestingly enough, in their white paper, they'll say that they were planning to release all of their cars by 2021, but it's clear to me that that hasn't happened yet because they still haven't released their mid-grade and their common cars. They plan to release their mid-grade cars when they release their open beta, and they plan to release their common cars when they release the game globally. And on their website, it's clear that that hasn't happened yet. So
yeah,
their roadmap is a little bit behind, and I can see there's no dates on it, which is again on purpose.
yeah.
And that makes sense to me because they're not trying to pigeonhole themselves, but they have added a bunch of different weapons into the game. They've already talked about adding more weapons and more widgets inside of the game. And very interestingly enough, the benzene token itself in the game is a deflationary token. So whenever you make a trade with somebody or whenever you put something up on the marketplace or sell something or whatever, 30% of that token gets burned, goes back into the earning pool for people to then find across the world again.
Oh,
So it will
interesting.
get more and more and more scarce, but will never reach zero. So that's really, really exciting. That's almost like a Bitcoin model, I would say, or like an Ethereum model, where it gets more and more scarce. It is deflationary, but it will never reach zero. So
Oh,
people,
interesting.
2, 3, 4 years down the line, it will be much more difficult for you to mine this benzene, but it won't be too tough for you to sell or buy or trade stuff in order to get benzene. And when you do, a portion of it will go back into that earning pool and will refill those waypoints for you to go
Cool. Well,
and
let's kind of see if they do anything. Well, man, that time just flew by there. Thanks so much for
yeah,
giving us some
true.
insight on what you've been working on lately with all the research. I know we're gearing
Absolutely.
up
You're
for
very welcome.
Mavia here, and we can't wait for that. That's
That's
I
our
want to
number.
say any day, but it feels
That's
like
like my
end of
number
month.
one. That's my most confident, my most excited project. I cannot wait to sink my teeth into the full version of that game. Even just the
Yeah.
open beta that we've been playing has been so exciting and deep for me and such a learning experience because I never played a whole lot of base builders before Heroes of Mavia. I'd only peeked over your shoulder once or twice to see what Clash of Clans looks like. And it
Hmm.
looked pretty cool, but it was never really my cup of tea. But now I understand why it can be my cup of tea, and I'm having tons and tons of fun with it. So I can't wait
That's
for it to
awesome.
get 10 times as complex as it is now, and for
Yeah,
everybody to
me
sink
too.
their teeth into that.
Same here. Okay, well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Of course, if you've made it to the end of the video, if you throw a subscribe, that would be great, and hit that like button. And we'll see you all guys in the next video. Take care. Cheers.